All right, folks, welcome back to Smile Jamaica. It's morning time. So since more persons are doing their jobs and schooling online, electronics have been in great demand. And so some corporate companies have been calling on the government to remove the taxes on these devices. Join us now for this discussion, our Vice President of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, Mr. John Mafood, and President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Mr. Jasford Gabriel. Mr. Gabriel on the phone and Mr. Mafood with us on Zoom. Good morning to you both. Welcome to Smile Jamaica.
Good morning.
Good morning, Never. Good morning to all the viewers. Morning, Mr. Mafood.
Yeah.
Morning, David.
Morning.
Sir John, let me start with you. I don't know what kind of taxes are we talking about. The government, they say they need money. We're saying take the taxes off. Is this just for students we're talking about and teachers or in the school, or is you want it right across the board?
You're speaking to me, John?
Yeah. Yes, sir, John.
Yeah, it's really for all tablets, all computers and smartphones for everyone, not just for students at this point. And we're asking for at least a moratorium of 24 months, not for a permanent situation.
Right, and the government, they're saying that it says the removal of taxes from these electronic devices will not be a viable financial option at this time. Your response to that?
Well, you know, it's not, the way I look at it is this. I'm the chairman of an inner city school, population 150. We did a survey of the parents of the children, and 65% of these children do not have any form of communication for learning. And that's going on now. It'll be a year for 2020. So it can't be measured in terms of just dollars. It has to be measured in the human capital of Jamaica. We understand there's 100,000 computers or smartphones or devices that are needed countrywide, and we cannot give up on our children because we say it's going to be a bit expensive. It's critical to these children, and especially in the inner city.
Jasper Gabriel, I want to bring you in here. About how many students are we hoping will benefit if we remove these taxes from the devices?
All right, so thanks for that, David. I'm fully on board with what John was saying a while ago. This has to be number one on the list of priorities I would suggest for the country, because the consequences of not doing this will be severe. The last survey we did, getting a feedback from over 2,000 of our teachers, suggested that upwards of 30% of the students were without devices, and that's just about 3 weeks ago. In real numbers, they are talking about over 200,000 students in the public school system. These are students that are totally disconnected as far as the teaching and learning process is concerned, and you can imagine what is happening with these students out there. And so education, the dynamics have changed so much. When we were going to school, you had to turn up at school and be checked for your pencil and your book and whatever else. Now you can't even turn up to class if it is you don't have a device. And so I would suggest that the government take a real look at this, a rethinking of the priorities, because it has to be the number one priority now. A lot of discussion is going on about face-to-face, but when you look at it, even for the schools that have been open, they are talking about 1% of the population. The fact is, almost the entire student population is still out there, and we still have this large number that are totally disconnected. And we have so many individuals and alumni groups and community groups. All hands must be on deck to make sure that our students at least have a device and can connect to the teaching and learning process. I must say before I stop that the JTA has recognized the urgent need for this. We joined the effort of a one device per child policy, and we have put $1 million in that just to ensure that as many of our students that are out there and disconnected will be able to. So this is something that I don't think will be a great expense for the government, because those who can afford would have already purchased.
That was going to be my question to you. What data supports the idea that if the taxes are removed, the students who don't have will buy?
Well, the law of economics, the more affordable, the greater the probability. And remember now we are talking about not just the students and the parents themselves doing the purchasing. We are finding partnerships that are being developed to help to secure these devices. And so once they become more affordable, others will be able to purchase also and be able to help students in these depraved situations. And so the affordability in this context is what is very, very critical, because remember now, having procured a device, there are issues now in terms of the data that needs to be supplied, because internet connectivity is still an issue. And so especially for the most vulnerable, it's competing entities in terms of the needs. You're choosing between food and data. And so any saving that can be realized in these families, I'm sure will be down to the benefit of the education system.
Yeah, Sir John, I'm going to quote the Honorable Minister of Education. Said the government has opted to target the education sector by providing electronic devices to students who are in need of them, and I quote, so for instance, there's a need in the education sector for devices, but instead of removing the duties so everybody can get a benefit who may not need that benefit, what are we doing? We're targeting the education sector, and we are giving the students who need the benefit. Your response, sir?
Well, you know, politicians can say whatever they want, including the Minister of Education. And that is not the reality. They did give computers, tablets the other day in our school. Of 150 students, we got 15. I think that's probably the experience throughout Jamaica. The ministry said the ministry cannot afford to provide tablets to the entire country. And that's a fact, notwithstanding what they say. And it's unfortunate that they make statements to give people hope, and it turns out that it's not true. You know, the least that they could do is say, okay, we will bring in the computers or the smartphones for schools who can afford to buy them. And what you would find is that PTAs and other organizations would help those schools to buy the tablets. I mean, I certainly would find in my school, I would be able to get organizations to help us to buy the tablets. So they need to either do something, which is to reduce the GCT on tablets and computers. The fact is there are about $20 million worth of tablets and computers that are brought in annually. If they give up the GCT on that, that's about $3 million that the country would lose in taxes. But they can't afford to provide tablets to the entire population. So let's find a solution and stop making excuses and stop giving out false information.
Jasmine, Gabriel, so we're at this moment. The government is saying it's not viable. You're saying it has to happen. Where do we go from here? What are we hoping will happen?
Well, I think it comes down now to how much importance and priority we are going to put on education if we believe that it's the way out of poverty and to secure a better nation. We're just like Mr. Mahfoud says, we are not talking about for long term. Even if it were not 24 months, even if it's 12 months, I would still suggest that that would be sufficient time maybe for those who are in the system without a device to be able to acquire one. And I'm sure the statistics would have changed and the government would be able now to look at the fact that several persons out there would have acquired devices since the start of the school year. So those who are out there now without are the ones that are really, really in need and those who are in a desperate kind of situation. I must also make the point that we also have teachers that are without a reliable device. The tablet for teachers that was negotiated for through the JTA, we're almost through the distribution of those. The fact is only teachers that were in the system as of May 2018 benefited from that. So new teachers and teachers who came on in the system thereafter totally in excess of 5,000 did not benefit from that kind of arrangement. Unfortunately, with the distress as far as the salaries are concerned, and the fact that teachers are incurring much greater costs now in terms of utilities and so on, they too are struggling in terms of affordability so that they can offer the best options and the best teaching experience for students. And so this is something that I don't think in the context of a government economy, when you look at the numbers, it will do any great harm. If you ask me, it's greater priority than fixing some of the roads right now. We must invest in the educational aspect and the capital in terms of our young people. Otherwise, we will end up with a lot more social issues, crime and violence, because these students out there who are not connected, trust me, they are finding other things to do, and they are not necessarily things that are productive.
Thanks, Mr. President. Thanks, Mr. Mahfood. Thank you both for joining us this morning. John Mahfood, Vice President of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association and President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, and Principal at Manchester High, Mr. Jasford Gabriel.
All right, what's happening in Ethiopia? Stick and stay for that discussion. We'll be right back.